On this episode of OC Unsolved, we uncover a mystery that has intrigued investigators for years, the disappearance of MH370. With new evidence being found and a resurgence of hope, we discover if this case deserves a deeper look. 9 Mike Romeo Oscar was built in May 2002 and was the plane involved in the disappearance, having an uneventful service, and on March 8, 2014, it set out on a flight from Kuala Lumpur International to Beijing Capital International. It took off at 2 minutes past midnight and was cleared to climb to 20,000 feet. The flight through the normal route until transmitting this just before entering Vietnamese airspace at 1:19 a.m.
Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
This would be the last time anyone heard from the cockpit of MH370. After this, someone descended into the electronic equipment bay and shut off 3 breakers, which shut off the flight entertainment system, as well as the cockpit voice recorder and the transponder. The Malaysian military radar then tracked the plane doing a U-turn toward the island of Penang. Then, it turned after Penang and to the north end of Sumatra. Then, the military radar lost contact with the plane. Then, 3 phone calls were made to the cockpit, which rang but were not answered. From here, the plane sent Inmarsat checks every hour before finally crashing just outside of Australia. Whenever the plane sends a signal, there is an arc drawn around where the plane is by the satellite. These are called, arcs, and it's the 7th arc, which was the last transmission, that most people paid attention to, and also where the later search efforts would be resumed. Before we dive into the recent evidence, let's go over the passengers. This video is split into 2 parts, where the plane is, which for a twist is now solved, and why the plane went missing. The captain of the plane was a man by the name of Zahari Ahmed Shah, who was 53 years old and had 18,000 flight hours. The co-pilot was a man named Farik Abdul Hamid, who was 27 years old and had only 2,700 flight hours. There were 12 crew and 227 passengers, for a total of 239 people. We will now go more into depth about the people once we get into the theories, but for now, this is all we need to know. Now, the area the plane last sent its signal has already been searched, and nothing was found. However, what they didn't know was that this is not where the plane is. Well, they didn't know before they searched. But this recent evidence may finally solve the plane's mystery, the location. Around the world, amateur radio enthusiasts talk to each other on vintage radio, and when a plane flies through it, it's disturbed. This is logged into the Whisper database, so the flight path has already been updated down to the inch to include the resting place just outside of the original search area. Over 30 pieces of the plane have also been found in Africa, but we'll talk about the flight path more once we get into the theories. Flaperon found shows damage similar to that of Flight 1549, or as it's also known, the Sully plane. It shows the lower part of the flap was torn off, with the meaning that it could have collided first. Also meaning that it hit the water with the flaps down. This, to me, shows that the pilots were alive and that they tried to keep the plane in the air. Who knows, maybe they just wanted to chill with the penguins in Antarctica. Flaps for planes are pieces of the wing that allow the plane to fly safely at a lower speed, mostly used for landing. This suggests that the plane would have landed level and was not in a dive like many would think. At the height the plane was traveling, it was estimated the plane could fly 251 kilometers before crashing. This places the plane just south of the area, which was searched. MH370 is here. And with that, bust out the tinfoil hat because we're getting into some theories. The first theory for what happened to the plane is a pilot hijacking. This is backed up by evidence that Zahari was a supporter of a Malaysian Democracy opposition party, and a politician he was a big fan of was arrested mere hours before MH370 took off. Those who spoke to him last say that he was distressed and sad when he boarded the 777, but if he had done it as a stunt, then why wouldn't they let the people know on the ground before doing it? Typically, that's the motive of a terrorist attack, is to let people know that you're gonna do it. Still, the plane also flew past his hometown on the island of Penang. Also, the turn that the planes took was too drastic for an autopilot to complete, so we know that at least one of the cabin crew was still alive. It's unlikely that Sahari would have taken out the cabin crew. Farik was also a supporter of Malaysian democracy, but did not seem alarmed before the flight. And the in-flight entertainment system was turned off, so the passengers would have no idea where the plane was, so they wouldn't think much of it and would not have acted. And let's examine the flight path one more time. I couldn't exactly find a zoomed-in version, also, let's just use the one without the weird dots. There we go. You can see over here near the island of Sumatra, the captain entered a holding pattern. Some theorize that he was communicating with someone, likely the Indonesian military, while others say that he was thinking of what to do next. But if this was true, then why would he land the plane level and not just dive into the ocean? This theory is my favorite theory, but I have no idea why he would land the plane in the water and not just dive, because it would be a lot quicker, or he could have just been trying to confuse investigators, because it's working very well in that case. Recently, a piece of the landing gear door was found, which confirms that it was down. When the landing gear is down during a water landing, it increases the chance of the plane breaking into 7 pieces. That, and a piece of the TV screen, which was heavily damaged, shows that MH370 hit the water hard. This all shows to me that the pilots were alive when the plane crashed. The second theory is that the plane was abducted by aliens. The third theory is that the plane caught on fire. This is backed up by the fact that the plane was carrying lithium-ion batteries. These have caused crashes like UPS Flight 6 and South African Airways Flight 295. It states that a fire broke out on this plane, and then, when it was turned around, it tried to make a landing at Penang Airport, but this failed and they had been incapacitated by the fire. The autopilot then flew the plane until it crashed into the Indian Ocean. This also applies to the plane being depressurized. When Helios Airways Flight 522 crashed, it lost pressurization and crashed near Athens with no one to stop it. And when Swissair Flight 111 crashed in Canada, it was determined it was because of a fire in the cockpit that destroyed the electrical system. Another theory states the plane crashed while trying to land on Christmas Island, a territory of Australia, but about a month after the plane crashed, a piece of metal was found at the island's capital, Flying Fish Cove, but it was determined to be from a fishing boat. The fourth theory is that the plane landed or was shot down near Diego Garcia. Diego Garcia is an island in the British Indian Ocean Territory and is a US naval base. It used to be inhabited until the natives were pushed out to make a base. Now, some sites say this is because the co-pilot's phone signals were detected and the westward turn being consistent with a flight path toward the island. And to that I say, where are you getting this from? The flight path is nowhere near the island, and there were no phone signals from the captain taken. Evidence was also that the captain's simulator showed that he flew a simulated flight from one of the islands to a nearby island in the Maldives. What is never explained about this theory is why. Why would the US randomly shoot down a Malaysian plane? That could be an act of war. Actually, it is. Many other theories have been floated around, such as connections between MH370 and MH17, the theory of the plane being controlled by a remote controller, as well as a black hole, a meteor, and basically any theory that you can think of has been claimed as truth whether there is any proof or evidence, and I only scratched the surface of it. As of the making of this video, talks about resuming the search are underway, this time near the new wreck location. Another thing I should mention is the Netflix documentary, MH370, the plane that disappeared. There are things that they say in the trailer with the crash being an act of war and stuff like that, but as of the making of this video, it is not out, so I can't really find anything about it being an act of war. Who knows, maybe some of the stuff I talk about here might be disproved by the time that's out. This mystery is undoubtedly strange, and the real victims here are definitely the families of the victims, as now they have no idea how or why their loved ones died. MH370 will still intrigue investigators for years, but if Amelia Earhart's mystery was solved a while ago as of making this, MH370 can be solved as well. With the likely cause being found, the plane still missing, and one of the greatest mysteries of all time, the disappearance of MH370 will remain unsolved.